Hi, everybody. This is Ed DiGiovanni. The purpose of this recording is to address the perception that Prism G2 is only for large projects that involves the requirement for earned value management. And I want to show that actually can be used for any type of projects where you don't have access to a budget or say a detailed estimate or even the schedule. Okay, so let's get started here. What I've done first is I'm using Prism G2, and I'm the administrator right now, and I created a project I called SD template. Now, the purpose of this project is I'd set up some standard coding that then I could use against other projects, and that I can copy information from this template project to the other projects. And I'll give you examples of that. Under the project tab, under definitions, I've set up a series of what we call control elements. So these are types of costs and hours. I've included some of the common ones that I see used in DOE world. I'm not sure they're also used in space and defense world, but I have to find them all. Cost is just a bare cost field that I'm using, but you can create as many of these as you wish to identify even different types of costs, such as, for example, material, labor, subcontract. It's really up to you. Other definitions I've set up, there's a series of time-based data curves. I've got some at the enterprise level, which are common to all projects, as well as project-specific curves. And these curves are going to save me a lot of time in terms of spreading my man hours and costs against all my tasks for my control accounts. Other definitions, categories, these are categories of labor that I plan to use the staffing plan feature. I'm not going to get into this during this demo here, but it's just something that I want available in my template project. Under the cost tab, there's a series of definitions here as well. Staff, identified staff that I typically want to use in my projects. And then again, this is for staffing plan purposes, where I've got each staff member linked up to a category ID and use that information to calculate costs based on FTEs. And finally, I just want to say that the project is empty. So if I go to the control accounts form, and you'll see that there are no control accounts there. It's just an empty project. But all this coding is already there. Okay, so let's say we have a situation where we have a Sprawless project came in. You want to quickly set it up in Prism G2, and there's no schedule, there's no estimate. You just want to get the data in fairly quickly. How do you go about doing that? Well, let's try that right now. So first, let me close up this project, and now I'm going to create a new project. So I'm going to go to the top here and say New Project, and I'll call it S Space and Defense 01. And then I'm going to restore the template to it, so I don't have to bother setting up all those codes. So let me go to my template project in the later version, and it's got the cost module, schedule module, change management. All I'm going to use is just the cost module here. The project was created, and it's restored. Right now it's restoring all those codes that I showed you earlier for my control accounts. Done. Now, the first thing I want to do is just modify the project settings, because I want to get the proper description of the project. So I'm going to go to settings, and it's called SND, a new project, call it. I'll just copy paste. Modify the project number, the project manager, our company name, client's name. This information actually copies in all the reports, multi-currency, what the standard currency of the project is. This all set up, other various reporting options and features. So I'm just not going to touch anything. Everything is just very, very simple. I'll click OK. Now I also want to start with a new project. I want to indicate the project reporting periods. So I'm going to go into cost and look at definitions and set up my cost reporting periods. And here it's suggesting today's date. I'm going to say, well, actually, the 10th of April is the start of the project. We're beginning this week. We're going to report progress once a week. It's 2 months, 8 weeks of this project. In terms of working hours, there's 8 hours a day. We don't work weekends. We can also indicate the holidays. And with that information, say, okay, set up my reporting periods. And I just want to make sure I want to report every Friday. So let's make that first period from the 10th to the 14th. Therefore, I'm always reporting on the Fridays. Good. All right, and the project ends, right now it's showing the 6th of June, or 2nd of June. All right, so we've got our reporting period set up. So let's now start adding the data. So let's go to our control account screen. And I'm not going to add a lot of data. I'm going to add, say, 6 control accounts. And I don't have an estimate to build on in terms of setting up my budgeted man hours and costs per control account. So I'm just going to start typing. So let's just start with the first control account. I'll just call it task 1. Description. At the bottom here, I can then indicate the budgeted man hours and costs. Now there's an hours tab and a cost tab here. So in terms of hours, I'm going to choose one of my cost elements that I had previously set up on the template and just indicate its hours. And here I'm just going to put in some man hours manually. Budget approved. You'll see now it's reflected at the top of the form. And my costs, I'll click on the cost tab, indicate a type of cost. I'm just going to call everything this cost for now. And here I'm going to put in $100,000 and there. So we have our cost of man hours. So that's our first task. And let's do some others. Just get some data built up. Task number 2. Second task. Indicate my hours. So it doesn't require you to do anything fancy in terms of bringing in an estimate. You can just start typing it, just like you would in Excel. No difference. Here I'm just putting my cost there. Also, I haven't put any coding in terms of how do I actually identify my control account with any work breakdown structure. So again, just keeping it very, very simple. All you're doing is you just need a very simple approach to actually doing cost. You can just start typing. And I also want some man hours here. Now you don't have to have man hours and costs against every count. You can just pick and choose which counts. Say, for example, this next task, I'll just have it just have the cost applied. This here, I just want to put in money. There's no man hours involved. Cost is my cost element. Good. And just a couple more, just so we have enough data so that we can see some of this data on the reports. Fifth task. And let's put some hours on this one. And let's see. And let's put some dollars as well. Later on in another recording, I'll show you how actually you can actually build this up different ways in terms of being able to import this data instead of just manually typing it in, as well as how do you actually use the staffing plan features to do this, to build these budgets using staffing plans. I'll get into that as well in another demo. And the last task. And we have hours. And costs. Oops, let me make sure I get this right. Let me make sure I adjust this. Good. All right. So we've got all our control accounts set up, What I want to do is make sure all the calculations are right. So I'm going to just run a process that we have under calculations just to refresh all the calcs. Not choose anything, just click OK, and I'll make sure that all the extensions are made and all the man hours and costs are set up properly. Okay, so we're done. We've set up a series of control accounts or tasks with budgeted man hours and budgeted costs for baseline, approved, and estimate at completion or forecast final costs. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to be able to time paste this, but I don't have a schedule available. But that doesn't stop me. I can just enter the dates manually. So, for example, the first task, I'm just going to go to the baseline dates and say, okay, started this task is April 10th, and it's going to go for 2 weeks, and that's it. I've assigned start and finish date. Now, I'm going to use the utility to copy over the other dates as well to save me time. But you could use this method, go to the next activity, do the same thing. Or under grid mode, we have a series of user-defined grids. And I had one that I created under the layouts called just start and finish dates, where I just want to enter, show the control accounts, the description, and then start and finish dates. So I'll use this to actually assign start and finish dates to all the other control accounts. So next control account, it starts on 17th. I'll just make it go for 2 weeks. All right. Next control account, 24th. And again, just manually assigning dates. Now you got to be a little careful too. I mean, keep that in mind. You just don't assign finish dates that are earlier than start dates, but you get the process. It's just this one here. I'll actually make it end a bit longer. Say the 6th, and finally the last one. Just trying to get something that makes a bit of sense here. Let's say that ends in the June 2nd, say. All right, okay. So I've assigned start and finish dates to all my baseline start dates, both all my control accounts. If I go back to the control account or get a grid node, I now have these dates assigned for every account. Now I want to quickly get these dates as also the approved and current dates, because at the beginning of the project they're all the same. So I'm just going to use a copy schedule date process. It's one of the utilities we have available. It saves me time, so I'll say copy baseline dates to approved and current dates. It's done, and I don't want to do this anymore. And there now I have my start and finish dates for all my control accounts. All right, so I've got the budgets, I've got some dates. I didn't use a schedule. Now, how do I actually get the system to spread these budgeted man hours and costs? Well, I can just do that also manually. You may recall there was a series of curves that I can that I copied over or set up in the template projects, and they're now available in my project. I can view them now. These are the ones that were copied in, so I can actually assign a curve to various types of budgets and have Prism use these distributions to spread my budgeted man hours and costs. So, for example, for the baseline, I could say use a middle curve, approved, and maybe beginning. I guess you'd want them all the same. And with that information, I could then go to my time-based cost tab and use just spread it for each individual account. So, for example, spread my budget for this particular account, and now it's spread it based on that distribution, and finally spread my forecast. It's there. Now, instead of doing that for each individual account, again, I'll just run one of the time-based, one of the processes that does it for all the accounts. So I'll use the spread time-based data feature. It says spread the baseline budget, the approved budget, and the actual ETC. If it doesn't have a curve, assume a middle belt-shaped curve for now. and let's do it all. And now all my counts should have curves or spreads. Good. So I set up all that data and spread them manually, assign dates manually, spread them manually, or electronically in this case, and just calculate them all. Then I actually start running reports. So, for example, as you know, there's a series of standard reports available out of the box. So I'll use one of our standard cost comparison report. I've got a spec already set up here, and let's just preview that on the screen. And let's zero in so we can see it. All right, so there's my tasks, my 6 tasks. We have a baseline budget, approved budgets, no actuals yet, estimate to complete, estimate at completion, and so on. All right, no problem. And also, let's close this up. And also, I time phase the data, so I'd like to see one of the time phase reports. So let's look at the bar chart and S-curve. Let's get the spec set up, show the forecast. Let's preview that. See what that looks like. So there's our spread, showing bars. Those are our tasks. Let me just, again, get closer. So there's our tasks. It's weighted them as well. And this report shows weekly budgeted costs and actual forecast. So, quick report that I produced. Now, what I've done is I've set up a batch of reports that I can typically run. It's under the project tab that was set up with my template project. So let's just run a batch of reports all at one time. So there's actually about 6 reports I run. Let's just actually preview those reports. Just to give you examples of types of reports now, I don't have the 530, excuse me, I don't have the custom 533M from NASA on my project here, but it could be just one of the standard reports that are also available as well that I can print. So right now it's just printing off a series of reports, an executive summary, which is the status of the entire project on one sheet of paper. Slowly it's building them all. Here we go. I think it's just about done. Good. So my executive summary showing schedule performance, cost performance, and dreaded SPI, CPI. They're all there. What was accomplished during the period, what our concerns were, and so it's a very simple report that we also have in our dashboard. We have a cost report I showed you earlier. The same report, but this time showing hours, budgeted man hours. And there's a time phase data report. We're showing the weeks and the spread that we did, showing baseline spread, the actual approved budget spread, baseline spread, as well as actual ETC spread. A histogram where we're showing the baseline budget and the approved budget and the actual forecast together. And finally, the last report is the graphic report I showed you earlier. All right, so let me just close these up here. Okay, so then the question is, okay, how about how do I handle progressing? It's set up the project fairly quickly, but how do I actually go about progressing the data? So let's go back to our control accounts, and I'm going to go again to the first task. And if I wanted to enter in actuals, I don't have to get involved with downloading data from an ERP or using Prism Integrator to transfer the data electronically. I could just enter again the data manually. So if I wanted to enter into, say, period actuals against this account, I would just go to the period actuals subtab and start typing. So should I just add, and it's by contract PL, so it's a P01, item 01, first invoice, I'll call it. And indicate my hours element, if there's hours involved, yes, how many hours, 100 hours, say. Type of cost, it's just cost. Value, $1,000. I can indicate an employee ID, get right down to the employee level, or if you're buying a piece of, or it's an invoice or a piece of equipment, and so on, you can have that information there. And that's it. You can enter in actuals, and then from there you can say calculate, and then it'll transfer the actuals up to the actual forms, and then I have my period actuals and my to date all set up. When it comes to commitments, the same thing. Go to the commitments tab, and this time I'm say I'm purchasing a piece of equipment or so. Again, just add, and here I'm going to enter my hours element, and say we've committed for 500 hours, say type of cost it is. It's right now, it's everything is this cost, $1,000, and calculate. Now I have my total committed, my open commitment, the difference between the actuals and the actuals to date and total committed, and calculate my estimate to complete. Now I can go through each one of these individual control accounts and do that same thing here, or we actually have a form that you can fill out and just do them globally. So if I'll go to the period actuals form, and there's that actual I just entered for task 1, it's available there, and I can just hit add and say let's also add actuals for tasks 2 and 3, and I'm just going to copy for now. Say it's item 2 and it's item 3. And again, I'm just going to make stuff up here. Hours and 200 type cost. It's just COST. Oops, there we go. And put in some money here. And that's it. I'm done. And then when I enter into this form, it actually automatically shows up on the control account form. So I can go to task 2, and now I should see some period actuals there. There they are there. All right. And then same with the commitments, right? We don't have to just go to each individual account. We just use this commitments form and just do the same thing. All we're going to do is just hit add, and let's add some commitments for tasks 2 and 3 as well. And again, just make stuff up. All right. And then with that, we now have commitments and actuals against 3 tasks right now. And what I want to do is, well, there's something that I just want to get back to that commitments file that I specify the codes. This is important. Let's make sure we have our hour codes set up and our cost codes, because Prism wants to know what type of cost it is. Good. All right. Good to go. And so now I can then calculate committed costs. Again, I could do it each individually for each individual control account, or just run that process I ran earlier, calculate totals, and it'll refresh all my actual costs for me. So I have committed tasks and actual costs for 3 counts. Now, how do I update the forecast? Well, just go in here and change the dates. That's all. So the first task, let's assume that the plan was to have it done by April 21st. Let's say we're a week late there. So I'm indicating a new finish date. I don't change the baseline or approved dates. Second task, again, I'll say that's just a little bit more late. Again, because you're not dealing with using a schedule, you got to keep in mind that you sort of have to work with the logic yourself. But it is this simple that you could just change the dates accordingly. And because you change the dates, you probably should do a respread, right? Respread that budget, because now you're indicating new dates. And so Prism automatically does that for you, and that it'll take into account the actual costs for the first period, and it compares it to the what was budgeted and what else is remaining, and actually spreads that into the forecast for the remaining periods using the profile assigned by the curve. So let's just run another time-based data process, but all we want to do here is just spread the actual forecast for all the accounts that may be affected. Okay, and let's see the results. Again, we're going to go to on our batch reports session as we did earlier, and just let's see the results of the, where we've entered the actuals and commitments and modified the end dates of some of the tasks. So let's preview that on the screen. Slowly building them all. There we go. I'll just need to take a bit longer, more data, I guess. Okay. Well, actually, you can see it in this curve here that it's already taken into account that I extended the forecast dates, but the proof dates stay the same. It had to respread my costs based on the new dates. Again, it tries to keep that profile and so on. So here's all our reports. We've got some actuals now for the first period. We had planned to spend 37.5. We actually spent 60,000. So Prism automatically then has to adjust all the other periods accordingly. This report here, we had it's indicated was the first week, and we spent $60,000 in actuals. And it's actually redid the spread for us. The hour reports as well. Now we're showing the, let me sort of zero in more. Here we now have actuals to date and man hours. So automatically calculate all the values here. Cost-wise as well, we now have period actual costs and to-date actual costs and committed costs as well. And again, let me just sort of get closer so you can see it better. And finally, our executive summary. Hey, we're still on schedule. That's good. But it does tell us that we actually have a bit of a problem in the first period. First week, we work accomplished they cost $60,000 more than we earned. We haven't indicated any earnings, right? Which is a good point. Earned value. How do we actually start using that? Well, it doesn't have to be difficult. It could just be simple, where you just manually enter a percent complete, and Prism automatically calculates the earn for you. So, for example, the first task, I can just say that the default method I'm using is just a manual method, but as you can see, Prism has over 30 different methods to calculate percent complete. Or I could just put in 20%, say, 20% complete, and have it calculate, and it will calculate my period cost for me, or my period earned, for me. And I can see that under the time-based cost, it actually calculated the earned value, $20,000, which I can then compare to my actual values. Or let's say I wanted to base the calculation on man hours, actual man hours, I could use one of the man hour methods, such as actual hours to date divided by estimate completion. So based on the actual man hours I have assigned to this particular control account, it'll then calculate the percent complete for me. I have 10% complete, and also the earned value for that particular task. All right, so there it is. I just wanted to show that it is possible to set up Prism very simply. You don't need to have a schedule or an estimate. You can just start typing. People say, well, I could probably do this in Excel. Yeah, but you're still typing in Excel, right? You're just using the same process. But here you have access to all sorts of features for spreading it quickly, getting a series of reports out very quickly as well, and then having other people just go in and review the data instead of having to share spreadsheets and so on. So something to consider. My next recording, well, I'm going to get into even a simpler method I just showed you get all this data set up. All right? Okay, thank you.